Hi, and welcome to the Business Pioneer Podcast. I'm your host, Erika Montgomery, founder and CEO of Three Girls Media Inc., an award-winning digital marketing agency. Today, I am so excited to speak with Margo Mansfield, who is the founder of Mindful Mastery, LLC. She is a seasoned trainer, a consultant, and a coach with a career spanning decades. Margo started her business back in 1977 after she did some social work for JFK's poverty program. And following a car accident that changed her path, she built a career helping individuals and families and businesses really develop deeper self awareness and confidence. At the core of her work is something called the Reality Security Inventory, which is fascinating. It's a next generation personality assessment that uncovers how people think and feel and behave under both usual and stressful conditions. Margo has a passion for transformation. She really specializes in helping people break free from limiting beliefs and unlock their full potential. I'm excited to dive into her incredible journey and learn how her unique approach really empowers others to thrive. So let's get started. Margo, welcome to the program.
You so much, Erica. That was a very nice introduction. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. So, Margo, I know that my team and I had the pleasure of doing the reality security inventory with you last week. And it was a fascinating exercise that we thoroughly enjoyed. But before we dive into that, why don't you just tell our viewers a little bit about Mindful Mastery LLC and how you got started?
Okay, well, mindful mastery is sort of like the second level of the development of my work because my first company was called Consulting Associates International. And in 2014, I had a contract working with the city of Seattle, the IT department, and I could see that training was going online. And I wasn't really much into computers. My whole career had been doing personal consultations and seminars with people. So I didn't see how it could happen with a computer. And at that time, in 2014, the whole arena of doing seminars online was just starting. So it wasn't really developed. So I thought, this is not going to work. So I closed everything up in 2014. And then in 2021, a friend of mine, an old client of mine actually, contacted me and he told me about a company that was doing great seminars online. And I got very excited because this has been my life's work. And I started working with this when you couldn't even get a degree in training in college or coaching or consulting. So it's been my life's work. So I was very excited. And I decided that after doing a little research that I was going to restart the business and put it all online. So that's what I did 3 years ago. It has been so exciting for me. It's funny when I think about how I resisted even thinking about it in 2014, and now I'm having so much fun with it. And I really think that the way that I'm able to do seminars online is actually much more productive than it was when I did them in person.
Wow.
Because, yeah, it's very interesting to me because you can design. When I was doing things in person, you had to put all the information together at one time because I had to be there.
Hmm.
Now I use videos, I use exercises that people can go off and do, and then we can come back and talk about them. There's so many ways now that you can actually enhance the whole training experience to increase retention in ways that I could never do before. So it's been quite exciting, actually.
Isn't that funny how you have an idea of doing your business a certain way that you've been doing for so long, and all of a sudden, when you decide to take a leap of faith and try something different, even though you're not 100% sure whether or not it's going to be for you, but you decide to give it a chance, and then boom, it works out even better than you could have imagined.
It's just amazing. Actually, it's a term that I learned from Tony Robbins called the threshold of control.
Mm.
And it's when you reach a certain level that it's like you feel like you're full. You can't go any you're out of control if you go past that.
Hmm.
And so I learned the meaning of that because that's what happened to me. And now I see I have to laugh at myself. I mean, really, because I could have done the same thing back then, but
Hmm.
I didn't. I wasn't ready to do that. And
Hmm.
that's kind of taught me too that sometimes timing is very important in terms of your own iteration of life for yourself.
So true, so true. And I bet too that being able to do what you do online now opens you up to working with so many more people across the country and even internationally that would have been much more challenging to do before because you would have had to travel physically, get on a plane or get in a car. And so it's got to make that part of it so much easier for you.
Absolutely. Erica, I had dreamed of taking my work to another level.
Mhm.
But the effort that it took when I had to travel thousands of miles with workbooks and PowerPoint projections and all of that, it was like impossible. Believe it or not, I have trained thousands of people, but people don't know about me. Why? Because I couldn't reach that vast number of people like you can now on the internet, which
Mhm.
is just so awesome. It's so exciting for me.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, kudos to you for changing directions and deciding to give online a go because it sounds like it has really revolutionized your business.
It has. It absolutely. And me too.
Oh,
Not just my
wonderful.
business, but me too, because I had to revolutionize to do the business online.
Mm.
So I'm writing a book now, and part of the theme of my book is that as you develop yourself, everything you touch develops
Mm.
just automatically.
Sure.
So I oftentimes have told leaders of organizations that I've worked with before, when you look out at your staff and the people that you're working with, if you don't like what you see, it's because it's a reflection of you. If
Ah.
you see something that you like, that's a reflection of you.
Mhm.
So it is always a reflection of the leader. And what the leader is doing will always show up around them. And that's true whether you have a company or a family or friends. It's
Mhm.
the same thing.
Yeah, that
So
makes a lot
so
of
it is
sense.
that automatic transformation that starts to happen
Mhm.
when you transform.
Yeah, I love that. So, you mentioned you're writing a book. Tell me about this
Yeah.
book.
Well, the book really, as I have looked back and I've seen my life's journey, because my business actually started with an automobile accident. It was a tragedy that had happened to me. And interestingly enough, that became the catalyst for me doing what I'm doing today.
Hmm.
And and the way that happened is because my face was scarred and I was young, I was 19 years old. The plastic surgeon said that I should go to a psychiatrist. Well, in those days, we hardly knew what a psychiatrist was, really. But my parents found was supposed to be the best psychiatrist in St. Louis, which is where my home was in St. Louis County. So I went to the psychiatrist because I was having such a hard time with my face was very scarred and my teeth it was ugly. It was not good. So the third session that I went to with him, he fell asleep.
Oh, how awful.
Erica, I cannot tell you what happened to me. It was, I got up out of my chair. I was so stunned. I got up out of my chair. I walked out of the office and I was walking down the hallway, and I can see it in my mind right now as I'm telling the story. And I made the decision that I guess I had to figure it out on my own. And that was the beginning of my business.
Wow. That's incredible. Well, first of all, I'm so sorry that happened to you. How mortifying to have your psychiatrist fall asleep during an appointment. But kudos to you for not taking that to heart and deciding to turn a real negative experience into a positive and launching a business out of it. I don't know that a lot of people would have had the wherewithal to do that.
Well, I guess some things are just meant to be. And by the way, that was only the first part of the catalyst. The second part was that my aunt later, about 6 months later, asked me if I wanted to go to a hypnotherapist.
Hmm.
And of course, I didn't know what that was, but I was desperate. And I said, well, of course. So when I went to the hypnotherapist and he put me into trance, immediately I was back in the operating room the night of the accident. And they had just finished working on my body. And there were two doctors, two surgeons, and they were talking. At that time, they could do this. They're not supposed to do that now, but at that time, they could do this. They were talking to one another, and one of them said, isn't it a shame she was probably such a pretty girl?
Ugh.
And the other one said, yes, and she will never have the mental capacity she once had.
Oh my goodness.
So those two statements drove my life in so many ways that I didn't even understand. And so through my work and then my education, I got an undergraduate degree in sociology and a master's degree in humanistic psychology. I've done so many different trainings. My goal was to figure this out. That's how I started this business. And when I ran into the inventory that you had the opportunity to take, that put me on the path. So my life became that. So that was really the beginning of my business.
Wow. What an incredible story.
Well, it was my passion, and it still is,
Mm-hmm.
because I know now the relationship between the conscious and the subconscious mind. We are
Mm-hmm.
brilliant, all of us. And what I've realized is that as we learn and we change our mind about certain things and improve the quality of our life, we do that because our subconscious mind is trying to work with us to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So as we get clear on what we want, we start to create it
Mm-hmm.
because we have a natural success way of being. And you know what's interesting about that, Erica? Even for a drug addict, there is a success mode that they have. When they want drugs, they're going to find them. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
If a drug addict can do it, the rest of us can do it, right?
You would like to think so, yes.
Yes. And so we have this instinctual success formula, but we have to get clear about what we want,
Mhm.
and we have to make those decisions. And so the inventory helps people get clear about issues sometimes they've never even realized there was an option,
Mhm.
because we know that the personality is a big conglomerate of programs,
Mhm.
and we don't question them because we don't even know that we can question them
Right, or how to question them.
or how to
Yeah.
question them.
Yeah.
So what the inventory does is it helps people see these things. It's not a good or a bad thing or a right or a wrong thing. It's just we just didn't even realize it.
Yeah. So the reality security inventory, just so our viewers understand, is I would describe it, having taken it, both my team and I, as a quiz of sorts.
Yes.
There are no real right or wrong answers. It's not that kind of quiz. It's very individual to everyone.
Mhm.
But you go through, it takes about 25, 30
Yep.
minutes, and you answer a bunch of different questions about different scenarios and how you feel in different
Mhm.
scenarios.
Mhm. Mhm.
And after my team and I completed the assessment, you met with us as a group
Mhm.
and ran us through our results.
Yes.
And what I found so fascinating, having done this as a team with
Yeah.
my employees, is being in a very creative industry, marketing, it was so wonderful to see how many areas where we were similar,
Yes.
and how we had so many things that were alike. But
Yeah.
equally as fascinating were the areas where we shared differences in
Yes.
terms of things like thought processing,
Yes.
and
Yes.
how, one person, thinks of this scenario this way, and another person in the same situation or circumstance would, take that information and process it a completely different way. And like I
Yeah.
said, there's no right or wrong, it's just differences. And it
Yes.
was fascinating to see that. And so I
Yes.
really, really enjoyed the experience of doing that with my team. And I would guess, when you work with other companies, that you have them, or groups, you have them
Mhm.
do the assessment and run
Yeah.
them through a very similar process.
Yes. The the thing that is so interesting too, Erica, and I've seen this over the years, is that when there are differences, when we have differences with the people around us, and sometimes it's in our family, it's not even at
Mm-hmm.
work, it's in our personal lives too, and we don't understand how they think differently, then it causes challenges in the
Mm-hmm.
relationship. When the reality is, if we understood how they thought, and if they understood how we thought, it would make the picture so much bigger and
Mm-hmm.
so much real, because it would include the whole thing. And that's the thing that I tell people all the time, is that those differences are of such value, but we have to take the time to learn about those differences.
Mm-hmm.
So when people are like us, when they think like we do, and they feel similar to us, and they behave similar, it's easy to get along with those people because we're kind of on the same track.
Mm-hmm.
However, when there are those differences, it's not that people can't get along. It's that they have to take the time to understand what is that difference.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, in a business situation, and this can be true in personal situations too, but in business, when you're looking at a problem that you're facing, the business is facing, it is of such advantage to see all the facets of the diamond. Because if you see all the facets of the diamond as you're looking at it, then your solution includes dealing with all of those issues.
Mm.
If you can't see one portion of it because your mind doesn't do that, there's one portion that's left out. So from a person like yourself who's in marketing, you know that you market to people who relate to you.
Mm-hmm.
If you have pieces of you that are represented in other people who are not your clients or your customers, and you don't know how to relate to that, they're not going to be your customers.
Mm.
So I oftentimes say it's as if we have a pie, and that pie is cut into 8 pieces or 10 pieces. Your piece of that pie is one piece. You can understand that part. But there are 9 other pieces. That means there's a big market out there that you're not seeing because you can only see what you are.
Mm-hmm.
So when we use the inventory, it helps people to see a bigger whole, a bigger picture of what is both in other people as well as themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the exciting part, because now what once was contentious or causing control struggles now becomes something that is absolutely approached with curiosity to understand what is going on here. What is it I'm missing in this relationship? Something is just off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And the inventory helps us understand those things,
Yeah.
which is so exciting.
Absolutely, it is for sure. So, Margo, I'm curious. You have been an entrepreneur now for decades,
Yeah.
and I would love to hear what some of the biggest lessons are that you have learned over the years as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, the first working with the inventory, because now you've had a taste of it. Each one, there's 10 traits, and each one of those traits represents a different part of the personality. And what I found when I first started into working with it is that even though I had not recognized it earlier, when I started to work with people who were certain personalities or they had certain personality characteristics, I had judgments of them.
Hmm.
I did.
Hmm.
So, what I also found is that until I cleared that in myself, they couldn't connect with me,
Interesting.
because people feel things that aren't said.
Hmm.
People can recognize when there's an issue that you have. They may not know how to articulate it.
Mm-hmm.
They may not even quite know what's going on. They just know that at some level they don't want to deal with that person. That's all they know. So
Mm-hmm.
they have an avoidance. And I learned this about everything I was judging. And so what I learned about judgment is that judgment actually creates barriers to our relationships with other people.
That makes a lot of sense.
It and what it also does is it prevents us from being honest with one another.
Mm. Yes, I can see that.
And so that was one of my first, I think my one of my first big lessons. And because there are 10 different traits, what I found is that there were pieces within each one of those traits that I had to clear myself,
Mm-hmm.
that I had to learn that what I was seeing wasn't the whole picture. That if I was willing, instead of avoiding what I didn't like, if I would draw it to me and learn about it, it would change my attitude toward it because I would see the truth
Hmm.
of who that person was.
Mm-hmm.
Because part of the issue that we all have is that the people that we don't like to be around, we stay away from. So we never really know who those people are
Mm-hmm.
because we always keep them outside of us. When, however, we have the opportunity to bring them to us, we see that it's way different than we thought. And this was one of the most difficult issues for me in terms of growing my business, because in order to duplicate myself in other trainers, they had to go through that process too.
Sure.
And it takes years.
Mm.
I just know that because I went through it.
Mm-hmm.
I never had that kind of time to train somebody. But now, with videos, they don't have to be trained. They can show a video and they can learn over time as they facilitate using videos to begin with.
Hmm.
So the whole new way of doing things is allowing me to take everything that I've created to a new level in a way that I could never do before.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and
Isn't that, and
great
it's,
lessons learned.
oh my gosh, and it's so exciting to be able to have gone through those things and say, oh my gosh, the thing that I avoided had the answer in it, right?
Yes.
How can we do that?
Right?
Well, you know, I mean, for me, I think it has allowed me to have much more patience with other people
Mm. Mm-hmm.
as well as myself. And to know that sometimes things are at work within us that we don't even realize are happening. But if we allow ourselves to use our inner guide, that part of us, our inner guide to move us forward, we will come into what it is that we want, even if it takes time.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other
Absolutely.
thing I think that I learned is, you know, people, all people, have a need to feel safe, emotionally safe. In fact, the term these days is emotional safety.
Sure.
And yet what I understand in working with people is that most people don't even know what creates emotional safety for them.
Mm. Interesting, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
so we use the term, at least the term is out there now.
Mm-hmm.
So now, I mean, one of the things that I love about the inventory, the reality security inventory, is it helps people to understand, what do you need to feel safe, emotionally safe? Now, the reason that becomes important is because over my own evolution, I realized that we oftentimes offend people without even knowing it, because they have needs that are different than ours. So we can't even see it. So as I began to realize that, it also gave me willingness to forgive myself as well as others when they offended me, because people, they don't know, they're just living their life and doing what they think is best, right? And so I have become much more tolerant of behaviors that that I would not say that's my favorite thing. Well, maybe it's not, but it's also true that I have done things to other people that wasn't in their line either.
Hmm.
Wasn't their favorite thing. So I've learned to be much more tolerant and patient with myself and others, because the other piece of this, and I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about a situation that she was having with someone, and at the end she came to kind of understand what was going on that she had never realized before.
Hmm.
So when she was reflecting on it, she was saying, well, I see one of the things that I have to deal with in myself. She said, because I didn't know that I was offending her, this other person. I didn't know that I was doing that. And she said, so, I really have to watch that in myself, and I have to forgive myself. And I said, yes. And what you have to understand is it's not that you're forgiving yourself for doing something that you knew you were doing in the first place. Because if you don't know it, how can you hold yourself responsible for doing it differently?
Yeah, good
You,
point.
you cannot.
Yeah.
You cannot do that.
Hmm.
So I think we have to be much more giving of of our reality, understanding who we are, and that we're doing the best we can do too. It's like, I mean, one of the other pieces of life that I've had to deal with, Erica, is that my son was a drug addict for 17 years.
Oh my goodness.
So there were many times in those 17 years that I questioned what I had done as a mother, that I had blamed myself for his journey, all of the things that you can imagine that would
Hmm.
happen with a mother. Until one day I realized that there was never a time in my life that I made a decision to do anything that would hurt him, ever.
Hmm.
That never happened. Did I do things that probably weren't the best? Yeah, I probably did. But it was never my thought that that would even happen. So we cannot blame ourselves and judge ourselves for things that we don't understand. It's when we have the opportunity to come into saying, oh gosh, I just never understood that. Now we can enter life in a new way,
Hmm.
which is that's the joy of transformation.
Absolutely.
You know, that is
Yeah.
really it.
Yeah.
So I those those are the things that have helped me to some of the things. I mean, one of the other things that I realized in working with the inventory so long is that people really don't understand personality. They just don't understand what it is and how it
Hmm.
works. So they don't understand that when they go into stress, their behavior, the way they think, and the way they feel changes. So when there's two people having a conversation, it's really like four personalities, because each one of them has what happens when they're under usual and what happens when they're under stress. So what I find is that when people go into stress, what generally happens, particularly if they stay in stress for any length of time, fear and self-doubt and thoughts of I'm not enough are part of the stress programs. Those are part of the programs that are automatically a part of stress, because they're things we've learned over time. and those things come up. And those things actually create the mask that is in front of us. And that mask covers the strengths that we have within us that are present when we're under stress that are not there under usual conditions.
Mm-hmm.
So those parts of us are oftentimes laying dormant and underdeveloped because we never realized, we never get back into those parts of us
Mm-hmm.
because that fear and self-doubt on the surface of things holds us back, and the emotions that come up in stress are what make people feel like they're totally out of control.
Sure.
Which is why people then, when that happens, and we've all had that experience, it makes us afraid because we don't know how to get ourselves back to where we feel manageable to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So when people learn what actually happens to them when they go under stress, Erika, it eliminates the fear and self-doubt. And when you eliminate that fear and self-doubt, because now they know what's happening with them, it's no longer a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
They know exactly what's happening to. Now they know how they're thinking and why they're feeling that way. When you have that baseline of knowledge, now you can begin developing skills of resilience. Now you can start developing that part of you that you never had the opportunity to develop.
Mm-hmm.
That is exciting. Now that is huge transformation.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. So, Margo, if people want to get more information about the reality security inventory and how they can take it for them or their
Yeah.
group or their teams or employees or whatever, how do they get more information?
Well, Erika, we have a website, and the website is mytransformingself.com. And if people go onto that website, there are places on the website. This podcast will be on there. On that website, there is a lot of information that they can find out about me and about the training and the reality security inventory. There are also one area in there because I've done a whole podcast on building resilience. And so if they sign up for that, then they can also have an appointment with me.
Mm.
I am thrilled just to sit down and talk with people. So there's a place to schedule an appointment if they would like to do that. So these are the kinds of things, if they go to that website, they'll find all kinds of opportunities to connect with me personally and also gain more information about the reality security assessment.
Fantastic. Give us the website one more time, please, Margo.
It's mytransformingself.com.
mytransformingself.com.
Yes,
Amazing. Thank you so
yes,
much.
yes.
Margo, it has been an absolute pleasure having you as a guest. My team and I thoroughly enjoyed the experience with you and taking the reality security inventory. I highly, highly recommend it. If anybody is interested or considering it, please go to Margo's website to get more information. And I wish you the best of luck, Margo.
Thank you so much, Erika, for having me today. I really appreciate it. I'm very grateful.
My pleasure.